Hey, welcome everybody. We are in our first week and it's Wednesday. I was hoping to get this recorded just a little bit sooner, but kind of got some other actions going on at work this morning. But I wanted to take a quick minute and just thank everyone who has posted on the discussion so far. Great work. It's really nice to get to know some of our class. And you'll find that I really enjoy interacting in the discussions. So a lot of people discount those as kind of a check the box. It's, yeah, I got to post on this stupid discussion and I really don't care. But really, discussions, have the potential to do a lot of good. So this week, we're talking a little bit about unions and kind of introducing ourselves to unions and how they work and some of those things. And I kind of threw together a little slide here. I'm going to see if I can enlarge it just a little bit so people can see the actual things. And you'll see a number of different things on the presentation here. I put this together, one, to kind of give us some anchor points as we talk, but two, that way you don't have to stare at my face the whole time. But you can see the definition there, and then below that you can see a number of different union logos, because there are endless numbers of unions and types of, and then on the far right you can see who are today's union members, which is kind of interesting. And then of course Amazon, because that is a focal point in some of our reading and discussing Amazon and things like that. But it's interesting. I don't have a lot of union experience, but I do have a little bit. I want to talk briefly here. There are some positives to union experience or union employment, and I've done a number of classes in which we talk to students about unions. So I've had some students that have worked for organizations in which they were unionized. I've had some that were supervisors and things of that nature. But, in each of those cases, they did talk about how wages and benefits were usually higher. They had a more secure work environment in some respects because layoffs had to go through the union and be approved by that. Of course, the downside was generally the union said, well, it's based on seniority. So you may have had this guy that has been with the organization for 5 years, shows up, drinks coffee all day, doesn't do any work, but Joe or Susie, who came in 2 weeks ago, they're doing what they need to do. They're high performers. Because of the seniority system, those high-performing individuals are going to get cut before the guy that has seniority, and that's part of how they do that. I know within my own experience, I worked at an organization once that they were attempting to unionize, and it was interesting in the context that the union made a lot of promises and very vague, high-level things about how we're going to get you an increase in your wages, and boy, your benefits are going to be better. And as I looked at that, I listened to what they were saying and how they were encouraging it, but it seemed like a mystical cloud. There was no definition of, well, this is how we're going to do that. Usually it was, well, we'll negotiate that in your contract. What I found was that we would have to agree to unionize, start paying dues, and then they would do this collective bargaining process to increase our wages and all this stuff. It was kind of an interesting process. Later, and that attempt did fail. Now, later, I had been promoted into a management position. They again attempted to unionize, so I was able to see it from both the employee perspective, where they wanted to unionize, as well as the supervisor that was kind of like, I don't know why you want to unionize. We get equipment that's replaced on a regular basis. You have an ability to come down and talk to management. As a matter of fact, we had a group of employees that met on a monthly basis to talk about, and it was not a union, but there was some concern that it was kind of a union in the respect that this group represented the employees, and they would come down and interact with management and say, hey, we found this equipment that we could really use to help us take care of our patients better? Or have we thought about this or that, different things that address the workplace? But like we told them, if you unionize, that's all going to go away. And then some of the other disadvantages, and I'm not pro-union or anti-union, but was the worker experience in education a lot of times. And I knew this with a gentleman that was in the trades. He was in the construction trades, didn't have a lot of experience in terms of seniority in the union. He had to belong to the union to get a job. But again, the guy that had been there 5 years might not know what a hammer was for, but he had the seniority. He would often get selected for positions or jobs, particularly those jobs that paid better than the newer individual, until he built up some seniority and some experience to start getting that. The dues and their use. You have to pay dues or maybe initiation fees that you have to contribute to. And while those are supposed to support the union members in terms of if there's a layoff, the union's supposed to help support you financially and while you're going through that layoff or things of that nature. But they also use it for their political activities. Most recently, I believe it was the AFL-CIO was endorsed by President Biden. So, great. If you're a Biden fan, that's awesome. If you don't support President Biden and you like another candidate, you may not agree with that, but your dues are being funneled toward the support of that political candidate. So that's one of the other things. And then individuality. A lot of times it's a group think. And that was one student I had made that comment. He said it was very challenging to get the union and the workforce to be innovative in the respect to say, what do you guys think? Let's look at this from a different perspective. And he said some employees would come forward and go, I think maybe we should do this. And it was a great idea, but by the time it went through the union process and all those, it would get shot down because they weren't supportive of it. It didn't address their needs. So a number of different advantages and different disadvantages to belonging to a union. So I encourage you to participate in the discussion this week and certainly address the other assignments. Remember, you have to participate this week. Otherwise, you automatically get administratively removed. I don't have any control over that. And assignments are due by midnight Eastern Standard Time this first week versus midnight at your time zone the rest of the class. So with that in mind, I'm going to close out for now. Thanks for your time, everybody, and have a great week.